I am here with Kristen Stewart of Ivy Street Designs. She is a stager and an all-around fantastic person. Thanks for showing up.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
I wanted to talk about staging because I've been doing this for 20 years and I have the design and eye of an ostrich with its head in the sand. What what are agents missing by not staging?
I think the biggest thing that agents are missing by not staging is just dialing the house in so that you are appealing to the broadest segment of the market. And a lot of times when the seller is in the house still, you have to remove the seller from the house so that the potential buyers can actually see the house and not the seller. And so when an agent doesn't choose to stage or thinks it looks okay, it's hard to remove the seller. And the seller is moving on, and we have to figure out a way to remove them from the property so that we can actually see the property and the buyers can see it. So.
You just brought up two huge memories to me. One was a previous boss wanted me to list his home, and went through his house, and I saw all these pictures of when he was young. And so I'd walk through the house like we're supposed to, get an idea about it. And he goes, "What do you think?" I was like, "Oh my God, those pictures." And I went on about these pictures. Like, did you look at the house?
Exactly.
And then another
No.
one was a 3-story townhouse where you come in, it's that split. They had, I swear, 50 of these tiny frames of all the craziest things. Like some of them, they were things. They weren't just paintings or cards or something. We spent a good 3 minutes just looking at that, and that completely overwhelmed my memory of that property.
Absolutely. You can't even believe how common that is, that in the house, you can't get past the decor. You can't get past the artwork. I have a memory of a Portland condo. I don't remember anything about the condo. I only remember the artwork. And it was one of those that I wish I could scrub my eyeballs to get rid of the picture of the artwork. But, that's what you remember. And so that's part of what we do with staging is we remove all of those things. So what the person is seeing is what they're actually buying. So one of my pet peeves is seeing agents' pictures and it looks like you're trying to sell the furniture and not the house because your eye's drawn to the furniture, which is beautiful in a lot of cases, but that's not what you're selling. You're selling the house. So, for sure.
Well, let's go at vacant homes versus, filled or staged homes. In that case, how does that play into it?
Well, I can certainly help in either of those cases. It's easier if the house is vacant, and then we can bring in and not deal with anything but just a blank canvas. So those are always the most fun, but a lot of times that isn't an option for people. They have to live in the house. And so I can also come in and just help you determine what needs to stay in the property, what needs to go. And then I can bring in a partial stage, and fill in with the small things. People are getting ready to move. They don't necessarily want to have to buy some of the things I'm going to recommend, like new pillows for the sofa, new lamps, new towels for their bathroom, things like that they don't want to have to go out and buy. And so that's where I can come in and I can just add and fill in those holes that the seller might have, in their own decor and their own things there in the house.
So what can someone like me with a caveman mentality and no sense of design, what are some of the basic things that an agent should be looking at right at the beginning that anyone can kind of help make a house just a little bit better?
Well, the first thing I would say is you should definitely hire me to do a consultation. Let me be the one to take that role with your client, tell them the things that they should change. A lot of times people are attached to these things, and so let me be the one to tell them, I'm sorry, I know you love that wall, but we're going to have to paint it. That would be my recommendation. We need to neutralize that wall that you love, or that purple bathroom, or, whatever the case may be. So that would be the first thing that I would tell you. The second thing is people can affect a lot with small things, like just painting the walls, a fresh coat of paint. And the biggest thing is just declutter, declutter, declutter. You're moving anyway, so empty your cupboards, empty your closets. Keep just the bare necessities in the house while you have it on the market. Definitely take away anything that is personal. You don't want people coming in looking at your photos or your personal things. So just remove all of that. So definitely declutter and clean would be the two things for anybody that I would say. So, and then a fresh coat of paint. So you'd be amazed how far a fresh coat of paint can go.
Do you think that all semblance of the people who live there should be, taken away and put down?
No, not all semblance, because I mean, again, if you're living in the house while you have it on the market, there's some things, you've got kids. So we do want to appeal to, the entire market, whether you are a single person, retired, families, whatever, we still want to be able to appeal, but people still have to live, in the house. So we don't have to take all semblance, but we just want to, in the kids' room, take most of the toys out, take their names down. I wouldn't want people walking through the house and knowing that much about my kids anyway. And so, you can still remove all of those personal things, and yet people still get the feel, that this is a kid's room. So, and they can look past that, but mostly we want to highlight the house. And I think that's what good staging does, is it removes the seller from the home. And it highlights the house and not the seller. When we live in a house, we highlight ourselves. This is an expression of us, and as it should be. That's what our houses should be. But when we're trying to sell it, we're not trying to sell ourselves. We're trying to sell the house. So we remove all of that. So when someone walks through the door, they see the space, they see the windows, they see, the cabinetry, or the great flooring. So that's what staging is really meant to do.
So we're in literally the hottest market that's ever existed in real estate. We could put a for sale sign on a cardboard box and maybe someone would buy that. Why do we need staging in this market?
Yeah, definitely. Because you are still competing in this market. Very few people, this is the only house they're looking at. And again, you're trying to appeal to the broadest market. The more offers you get, the higher the price is that you're going to get. So we all know that. And so make your house as absolutely appealing as you possibly can. Make as many people as possible fall in love with your space in your house, and you're going to get the highest and best price for your property that way. Yes, it's going to sell. We all know that it's going to sell eventually, but are you going to have 10 people who are absolutely in love with your house and will pay, and do whatever they need to do to make sure that they are the ones that ultimately end up with your house? Or are you going to have 10 people that are like, well, yeah, but there's nothing else on the market, so let's go with that one. So, I mean, those are two very different places emotionally for a buyer, and they're going to be making decisions on their offer from two very different places with that mindset.
Well, something I say all the time is that we make decisions based on emotion and backfill with logic. And they say that most people know within 11 seconds if they're going to buy a home. And what they forget is that there's the outside. So the way things look matter. And we don't know why. We often say, I just don't like that person, or I just don't like that thing, or it just didn't feel right. We don't know why. And this is kind of what you're talking about, is these different layers that our mind assesses the house. And you're hitting these different things and removing these other people out, and so you're not thinking about them walking through there and, them doing it. You can see yourself there.
Exactly. And when we stage, the artwork, the decor is bland enough that it shows the space, and yet it's pretty enough that the room looks beautiful, and yet your eye's drawn to the space and not. Yeah, no one's going to walk through there and remember the artwork that's over the fireplace, because it's beautiful, but it's not meant for, that's not what we want people to remember, is the piece of artwork that I'm going to take with me when the house leaves. We want them to remember the fireplace. We want them to remember what it might be like sitting in a chair in front of this fireplace looking out those windows. So, because that's what they're buying.
You know, I'm not sure where I got this, but it's something about design. Design is supposed to, it's not supposed to get in the way. Design should not actually be the focus. It should just elevate everything else, right? To some point.
Yeah,
And so what you're
it
saying is
should.
you're not noticing all these little things, but together they make everything better. None of them stand out. And it
Exactly.
does come about focusing on the house.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's the difference between staging and design. In design, you may want a focal art piece and you want all of the focus to be on that art piece. That's perfectly fine in a setting where, you know, you're living there, you're staging to live. You want this says something about you. When we're staging to sell, we don't want any piece of artwork that takes the stage. We
Right.
want the house to take the stage.
You know, and I've had plenty of clients who are just like, I don't know why I didn't like that house. I just didn't like it. What I
Yeah.
found is that if you have to take stairs to get into your home, if you have to stay, you know, if the garage is below level, if you, whatever it is, anytime that you have to go up, and no one has ever mentioned that well, I've had a couple say, I just don't like stairs. But this is one of those things, they don't even know what it is about the house that bothers them. And what you're talking about is these crazily painted rooms, all this other things, and they're not even going to know that that's why they don't want to buy the house. It happens
Exactly.
on such a subconscious level, and that's the part that you're playing
Absolutely.
to.
Yes, exactly. Yep. Yep. And we want to appeal to the broadest market too. So we want, you know, a senior to walk through the house and love it. We want a family with kids to walk through the house and love it, you know, people with dogs, without dogs. So yeah.
What are some of the low cost, high impact things that people can do to get their house in shape?
Definitely paint. Paint is one of those, and in a neutral color. You know, that's very important too, that it is neutral. Again, it's going to appeal to the most, the broadest segment of the market. Also, pillows on the sofa. You'd be amazed what new pillows on your sofa make it look like a new sofa. So I definitely always recommend new pillows. Fresh white towels in the bathroom. You should always have new towels in your bathroom when your house is being shown. A bathroom is also a personal place. So there should be nothing that is not decor. They shouldn't see your toothbrush. They shouldn't see any personal things. They should see brand new white towels. It should be very clean. That was the other thing I always recommend everyone invest in. Have your house cleaned professionally. And so when someone walks into the bathroom, it is perfectly clean. The towels look brand new. And so they don't feel like they're invading your space at that point in time, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. So I love what you said earlier is that you get to be essentially, I'm paraphrasing, the bad guy. You get to say, hey, do this. And my relationship with the seller is going to have its moments where there's contention if we're trying to drop price and negotiate, and I'm trying to make them understand the market, whatever it is. I'm having my other discussions with the seller. Me also coming in, and they're going to look at me, know that I don't know what I'm talking about when I'm saying throw a couple of pillows here and do this. It's important. So having you come in, so let's talk about the staging consult side of what you do.
Yeah, so I come into the space. I walk through the space by myself. First, take notes. I take pictures. Next, I walk through with the client, and I go over everything from, I start at the front door and we walk through the entire house together. I will give my recommendations on the color of the paint. Usually I'm recommending, most people haven't painted or there's a color that shouldn't be there. And so I'm almost always recommending a fresh coat of paint. And then I just walk through. I help them figure out what needs to stay on the walls, what needs to be taken down, which pieces of furniture, is the room situated in a way that it flows well. I'm always recommending emptying out the cupboards and the closets and packing those all away. So that's how it looks. We just basically walk through the entire house, and I give my recommendations on every room in a lot of detail. And then after that, I come back and I write out a written report. I feel like it's important to walk through the house with the seller initially, so that when my report comes in and there will be pictures, they can remember, oh yeah, I remember she said put that sofa on that wall, those types of things. So I walk through the house with them first before they see the written report, so that they remember all of that. And then, hopefully they'll just use it as a checklist and go through, and just check off all of the recommendations that I make. Most people don't do everything that I recommend, and that's completely fine. But it also, like you said, it takes you off the hot seat. I mean, I remember one, I recommended, she had a Marilyn Monroe picture in the bathroom, and I said, I think you should take that down. And she said, I just hung it up. Well, now I'm the bad guy, and I can say, my recommendation is that you take it down. It's too personal. We're trying to depersonalize the state, the space. And so that was a picture that meant something to her, but it was me that was sort of taking the brunt of her frustration, that I didn't think it should stay in the space and not the agent. So yeah, so that's what a staging consultation looks like. From there, I will always recommend, if the sellers are going to be living, I let them know. If this is overwhelming for you, I can certainly come in and help. I won't necessarily do all of the, however I could for, I could help them with all of those steps, but most of it is the seller doing the packing, the cleaning, the removing. And then after all of that, right before pictures, I can come in and I can bring in pillows. I can bring in artwork. I can, bring in fresh towels for the bathrooms and just get the house ready. Bedding, I could also bring in bedding, that type of thing, for a fee, and get the house ready just for pictures. So.
How long does your staging consult usually take?
It usually takes a couple of hours. So.
What about man caves and rooms that have all kinds of sports stuff in them? What do you do with
I am
those?
always going to recommend that you take that down. Again, this may be your team and you love them. What if someone walks through the house and that team is their arch enemy? Now you've created a negative in their mind. And so again, or it's an artist that walked through and they don't care anything about sports. They see this room as sports. You don't want them to see the sports. You want them to see the four walls in the room that they'll actually be buying. And you don't want to distract them in any way from the house. So I always would say we have to depersonalize it.
So let's say you get a vacant home. What level of staging do you do with that?
I can do a partial stage on a vacant home. I can do a full stage. So I can bring in all of the furniture and decor. That's always a little easier. I think the most difficult is if there's no furniture, but they still want some artwork on the wall. It's hard to make that not seem a little odd, but I certainly can do that as well. So.
You like the blank slate?
I do. That's fun. Actually, all of it's fun. This job is extremely rewarding, to walk into a space, regardless of whether I end up in the end only doing the consultation, but seeing the pictures at the end and seeing how someone has transformed their space, to the partial stages. Those are so much fun, to just go in and you're just playing with their things and you're just plugging in a few things here and there to make the space look better. And then obviously the full stage is always fun, to have this blank canvas and come in and add everything that is all the things that we love. Everything that I bought, everything in my inventory is stuff I love. So.
What are the colors? So we're painting walls. What are we painting them? What are the neutral colors you prefer?
Yeah, the neutral colors are definitely going to be in the light beiges. The greiges are very popular, but it's all going to be light. It's going to have a, all paint color has a reflective value to it. So it's going to be a high reflective value so that, it's going to be a light paint. It's going to reflect a lot of light and make the space feel bigger, brighter. Definitely Sherwin-Williams has Benjamin Moore. They all have great colors like that. So I would definitely stay, depending on the cabinetry and the flooring, whether I tend toward the greiges or whether I'm going to tend toward the beiges. That depends on what you have, in your house for the mostly the wood surfaces.
So I don't know what egregious are.
A greige is like a gray and a beige. It's not completely cool on the gray side, and it's not completely warm on the beige side. It's a great color that kind of blends nicely with somewhere between that cool and the warm. Grays can tend to be a little cool, and people have a feeling towards that. The beiges are going to be warm, and some people have a feeling towards that. So this greige is this great color that sort of blends the two of them together so that it's not too cool and it's not too warm.
This is
So,
why my wife does not ask my opinion on colors. So you mentioned about the dark cabinetry, if they have some funky furniture, does that change the coloring a lot?
definitely. I mean, if their furniture is gonna stay in the house, I shouldn't say that. It's not gonna change the wall color because again, if you have very bright colored furniture, we're going to try and definitely tone the room down by picking a very uh, neutral paint color for the wall. So but I mean, definitely what's going to stay in the house has to play into the color that I would recommend for the wall paint for sure. So and the carpet has to be taken into account, those things that stay. But definitely anything like that that's going to be that is staying in the house that's not neutral, we're going to do our best to try and neutralize it. So if you have a very loud colored sofa, we're probably going to, and I'm going to recommend we neutralize that with a lot of neutral colored pillows, something to draw just to kind of tone that down. So if that makes sense.
Would the age of the home matter much to you? Like you have the mid-century moderns who have a style or okay.
No, no, I definitely would try and stay, I mean, there's certain homes like a mid-century modern that you want to be true to the design of the house. However, most people buying a mid-century modern are not going to have a bunch of mid-century modern antique pieces. They're still going to be regular old people trying to come in. So if you stage completely with period type pieces, if I brought in all furniture, it might look really cool, but can the buyer see themselves? Are they going to look, well, this is great and it looks amazing, but I don't have any mid-century modern furniture. So I don't want to ever completely stage with the period of the house, because you also have to make whatever buyer, be able again to see themselves in the space. Does that make sense?
Yeah. My first experience with a truly staged home before and after was when one of my buddies bought a home. And I did not really realize how well staged it was until we went back for the walkthrough.
Yeah.
And none of the stuff stood out. I don't remember what was in the different rooms, but we got there and the house looked so different. The
Yeah.
rooms seemed smaller. The place just seemed so different. It was kind of shocking. I was like, oh, this is what good
Yeah.
staging does.
Yep. Yep. No, it absolutely highlights and it helps create that emotional connection. And that's always, like you said, we connect initially on emotion, secondarily logic. So, we're trying to create that emotional connection with the house. So,
What else should we know? Oh, that's what I was going to ask you. Do you get into smells at all? Do you believe in?
Absolutely.
All right.
Oh my goodness. I would want to tell people clean, clean, clean your house. Have it professionally cleaned. Have the carpets. Most of us are completely nose blind to the own smell of our homes.
Mm.
Someone coming into the house, they're not. So you don't want to fill the house with a bunch of Febreze because a lot of people don't like that smell either. But don't cook food that is going to, don't fry chicken. You know what? You might not smell it, but someone else walking into the space is. And if you're not the one eating the food, there is nothing worse than the smell of cooked food that you're not eating or lingering cooked food. It's not. And again, we are trying to create that emotional attachment to the house, and smells are a very emotional thing. They bring up memories, they bring up very strong emotions. So remove all of that as well. Make sure your house is as clean as it can be, and then limit your cooking to, you know, you're eating sandwiches and cereal and things that aren't gonna create a smell, because that is so important. You know, to, I mean, I'm sure you know as well, you've walked through a house, it smelled bad, and the first thing your client says is, no, that house smells bad. You know, they couldn't get past the smell. We're all human beings, and we're all driven by these emotional things. And those types of experiences are just hard for us to get past. Most people can't envision themselves living in a home. They can't envision what this house might look like if it didn't smell like that. You know what I mean? That's just, that's humanity. That's us as human beings, being human beings. So, you know, remove all of that. Remove everything from the house that a potential buyer could have a negative emotion response to.
I had clients, we were selling the house and someone asked about the cat. And I was like, my clients don't have a cat. They're like, no, I think they have a cat. And I was like, I'll check, but I don't think they have a cat. They had a cat, but they kept the house so clean. I didn't even realize they had a cat.
Wow.
So what
Yeah.
about the, you know, potpourri or cookie baking smell or any of those things?
I'm not ever going to recommend cookie baking smells. I think, you know, if you're in the middle of an open house, okay, maybe, but that's not. I I don't have a problem with people using smells as long as it is very subtle. Um, because again, you want something that is positive. If it's overwhelming, people don't like that. I certainly wouldn't go out and buy a can of Febreze and spray that around. But there's a lot of different, you can buy diffusers that put off, it's a very subtle smell, you know, that's pleasing to people without being overpowering. So whatever you use, it has to be subtle. So.
Well, is there any last things that we didn't cover that you think the average person should know about staging?
Oh, I can't think. I think just my top staging tips: declutter, depersonalize, clean, clean, clean. So, yeah.
So you work in the Portland market. If someone wants to get in contact with you to get your expert help, how can they reach you?
I have a website, ivystreetdesigns.com, and by phone would be great, or email. So, yeah.
All righty.
Definitely through ivystreetdesigns.com would be the easiest to remember.
Yeah. Okay. And then I'll put that information in the show notes as well. So thank you
Excellent.
so much for joining me today. I
Thank
really appreciate
you.
that. You illuminated a
Yeah.
lot of stuff for me.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.